All right, let's just jump right into this explainer by acknowledging a pretty simple but profound truth. Every single day, the seamless flow of our modern lives relies entirely on an invisible engine that's just silently working in the background. Think about it. The fan that cools a classroom, the internet that connects our global businesses, the very roads we drive on. Without all of this, life would quite literally come to a complete standstill.
You know, it's actually really fascinating to look at the etymology here. The infra in infrastructure comes from Latin, and it doesn't just mean under the ground like buried pipes. It means the underlying support. It's the absolute bedrock that makes everything from education to healthcare and trade to technology possible in the first place.
So, welcome to our explainer. Today, we are going to unpack the massive $4.13 trillion reality of India's infrastructure transformation. We're exploring how redesigning this underlying foundation is rapidly shifting the entire nation from consumption-driven growth to large-scale capital formation.
Here is our roadmap for today. We'll cover 1. What is infrastructure? 2. The engine of growth. 3. India's infrastructure transformation. 4. Powering the future with energy. 5. Building a healthy nation. And 6. The road ahead.
Okay, starting off with Section 1. What is infrastructure? The invisible foundation.
Let's look at how this concept actually builds the framework for a thriving society. A lot of people think infrastructure is just concrete highways and steel bridges, right? But it actually encompasses three main pillars. You've got the physical stuff, transport networks, energy grids, water. Then there's social infrastructure, meaning the hospitals and schools that build human capital. And finally, the digital layer, the telecom networks and digital public goods keeping us securely connected. It's really the whole shebang.
Moving on to Section 2, the engine of growth and the relevance of infrastructure.
So why does this matter so intensely for a developing economy? Well, according to a 2012 Planning Commission report, the real magic word here is the multiplier effect. A 10% improvement in infrastructure can actually trigger a 1 to 2% increase in overall GDP growth. When you invest in roads or power grids, it's not a one-and-done benefit. It directly translates into a massive economic expansion because it instantly stimulates demand in related industries like steel and cement while driving costs down for everyone else.
And that brings us to the core economic impacts. By streamlining supply chains, basically making it faster and way cheaper to move goods from point A to point B, you lower transaction and logistics costs. This kind of efficiency boosts productivity across the board. And when an environment is this conducive to smooth business operations, it becomes an absolute magnet for foreign direct investment. It literally pulls in the global capital needed to fuel even more growth.
Let's hit Section 3, India's infrastructure transformation and its current state.
To truly understand the sheer scale of what we're talking about, we have to start with this number, $4.13 trillion. That is India's massive GDP, making it the fifth largest economy in the world today. To sustain a projected growth rate of over 6%, the country absolutely needs an infrastructure backbone capable of supporting incredible volume and speed. And this growth isn't just happening by chance. It's being deliberately fueled by massive structural megaprojects. We are looking at initiatives like the 1.97 lakh crore rupee National Infrastructure Pipeline. This creates a transparent, multi-year roadmap for investments across core sectors. Backing that up is the PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan, a highly integrated digital platform uniting central ministries and states to ensure unified planning. No more overlapping projects or endless bureaucratic delays.
We are witnessing a dramatic physical transformation happening in real time. Look at this. The country has gone from just over 91,000 kilometers of national highways in 2014 to over 146,000 kilometers in 2025. That's a staggering jump. Capital spending on infrastructure has multiplied more than five-fold over the past decade, creating a high-speed development environment.
But remember, we've got that digital pillar too. Alongside paving physical roads, India's digital public infrastructure has totally revolutionized logistics. The Unified Logistics Interface Platform, or ULIP, has facilitated over 160 crore digital transactions. That gives operators real-time visibility into their supply chains. Because of this seamless integration of physical and digital systems, India's rank on the World Bank Logistics Performance Index jumped from 44 in 2018 up to 38 in 2023.
Now for Section 4. Powering the future through energy.
Let's zoom in on a very specific lifeline of this expansion.
The energy sector is a total prerequisite for any kind of industrial development, and the upward trajectory of electricity generation is just wild. India is aiming for over 2,000 billion units for the year 2025 to 2026. This immense power output is non-negotiable if you want to support rapid industrial expansion, urban demand, and actually provide reliable 24/7 power to all citizens.
But it's not just about producing more power, it's about how it's produced. India is heavily diversifying its energy mix towards sustainability. Solar capacity alone skyrocketed from just 3 gigawatts in 2014 to an incredible 140 gigawatts by early 2026. Because of this massive push, India has successfully tipped the scales, pushing its non-fossil fuel capacity past the 50% mark of its total installed electricity capacity.
However, even as renewables expand like wildfire, you still desperately need a steady, reliable baseload supply to keep the grid stable. That is exactly where nuclear energy comes in. The recent Shanti Act of 2025 provides a totally modernized legislative framework, including strengthened liability rules and better private sector participation to drastically expand nuclear energy. The goal, a massive 100 gigawatt target by the year 2047.
Moving into Section 5, Building a Healthy Nation.
From powering the grid, we've got to shift our focus to the crucial social infrastructure required to protect and empower the citizens themselves, healthcare. But before we talk solutions, we need to objectively confront the historical deficits. India has definitely faced a distinct shortage of medical professionals. For context, the World Health Organization recommends a doctor-to-population ratio of 1 to 1,000. But in India, the reality is closer to 1 to 1,445. There's also a really sharp divide in access, with most hospitals clustered in urban areas, leaving rural populations highly vulnerable.
And similarly, there's a serious deficit in physical hospital capacity. Currently, India has only about 1.7 hospital beds per 1,000 people, whereas developed nations typically sit around 3. This lack of facilities and life-saving equipment often forces patients to travel incredibly long distances from rural areas just to reach a district hospital. It really underscores the urgent need for structural intervention.
So, the PM-ABHI initiative, that's the Ayushman Bharat Health Infrastructure Mission, was created as a massive structural solution to these exact problems. By aiming to create 29,000 health and wellness centers, building specialized critical care hospital blocks in all districts, and setting up advanced virology labs, the goal is to fully decentralize healthcare. It's all about building a future-proof, pandemic-ready infrastructure right down to the local level.
Finally, Section 6, The Road Ahead.
Okay, let's wrap up this explainer by looking at the future and the very real hurdles that remain on this ambitious path. While the transformation is undeniably rapid, we have to acknowledge the ongoing friction points. Significant financing constraints remain. Large projects frequently encounter delays due to land acquisition issues, bureaucratic hurdles, or material cost fluctuations that lead to major overruns. Overcoming these isn't easy. It requires incredibly diligent planning and deeply resilient public-private partnerships to share the risks.
So I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. As India rapidly redesigns its physical, digital, and social engines of growth, how will this completely overhauled foundation shape the daily life, the opportunities, and the prosperity of every citizen in the decades to come? It is absolutely a fascinating structural shift to watch. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the systems working silently in the background.